Hopefully, you've already had a call from your accountant and your property manager updating you on the federal budget. Usually hearing from a real estate agent right after your accountant is enough to make anyone want to block a number. But stick with me, because I guarantee you they have missed one critical point. Hi, I'm Adam. I'll talk about that critical point in just a moment and how we're going to avoid it. But first, since we already have established you have an investment property in Redbank Plains, we need to address the media panic. Let's look at what the amateurs are getting wrong and where the smart money is moving toward. Let's establish exactly where you stand. And the good news is, the investment property you currently own is in an incredible, powerful, protected position. You are entirely grandfathered in. All the same rules apply when you bought it. You can still negatively gear that property against other income, and the capital gains tax remains the same for as long as you own it. Oh, interesting tidbit, because I know exactly what you wanted to hear was a history lesson from Property Guy. But the term grandfathering originated in the US shortly after the Civil War, as the southern states tried to prevent the newly freed black citizens from voting. They introduced strict leniency to stop that happening. So to ensure the white citizens wouldn't be caught by these new rules, they passed a grandfather clause, stating that if your grandfather had the right to vote in 1867, you're exempt. Anyway, I found that interesting, by the way. Today, that means you are an exception to the rule. Your existing asset is safe. But for any new established properties moving forward, the rules have shifted. You can no longer offset those rental losses against external income. However, if you choose to build a new property, you are exempt. They are on the old rules. The government is essentially forcing investors into new construction. Right now, amateur investors are panicking. In fact, over the last week since the budget dropped, you've probably felt it, right? The market is essentially frozen. Buyers and sellers are holding their breath, waiting for the sky to fall. But the freeze is temporary. And to see what happens next, we just have to look at history as it repeats itself. In July 1985, the Hawke-Keating government did almost the same thing. They abolished negative gearing. The market didn't collapse. Instead, housing supply tightened and the rents in major cities skyrocketed because there simply wasn't enough houses. The pressure got so bad, the government was then forced to reverse that decision just 2 years later. The freeze will thaw, and the smart money is going to come flooding back in buying Redbank Plains real estate. Why? Because you can't tax away the core fundamentals of our strategic location, massive infrastructure pipelines, unrelenting tenant demand, and sheer affordability. The demand here will continue to suffocate the supply. Let's get brutally honest about property investing for a second. Over the past few years, the crazy market booms distorted reality. And look, I'll be the first to admit, it's largely my industry to blame. Real estate agents love hyping up a boom. And we've made people think real estate was all about making a quick buck. Buying a house, flipping it for massive profit 6 months later. But let me remind you of the fundamentals. The rules of property investing have not changed. And it has always been, and always will be, a long-term play. Negative gearing is not an investment strategy. It's tax mitigation for a failing asset. To get benefit from it, you fundamentally have to be losing money. Why would your goal ever to be lose money to save on tax? With rent yields where they currently are, properties in Redbank Plains are reaching positive cash flow faster than ever. If your property pays for itself, the loss of negative gearing for future buyers means absolutely nothing to you, as you clearly well know. True wealth is about building over time on rising value of land, not saving a buck or two on tax. So, what does this mean for your specific asset? And what was the trap I mentioned at the start? Because new builds still carry the negative gearing incentive, the average investor will pivot toward the new stock. This will absorb supply and push the baseline value of the entire suburb up, taking the value of your grandfather protected property with it. But here's the trap. The trend is all pushing to new builds, which in Redbank Plains is looking like a few hundred properties completed by 2028. Debt recycling and leverage still make property investment a really smart choice. And with rents projected to rise significantly, the smart money will capitalise on existing builds. hold long-term, and generate substantial wealth. Are you interested in knowing what your property is worth in today's post-budget market so that we can build a plan to continue to grow that wealth that you're creating? Reply to my text. Let's have a 10-minute catch up and make sure you're headed in the right direction. See how we can help. Promise, I won't bring up 19th century history again. Don't let the noise dictate your wealth. Real estate's a long-term game. Thanks for your time. We'll chat soon.